We've been trained to expect a specific kind of physical suffering when we hear the phrase 30-day challenge. The internet is crowded with punishing regimens that demand 2 daily workouts and 0 days off, all chasing a rapid physical transformation. The longevity blueprint operates on a different logic. It relies on 5 simple daily actions: move your body, eat 2 whole food meals, protect your sleep, complete 1 mindfulness task, and make 1 social connection. When followed for 30 days, the most significant result isn't a change in appearance. It's a specific, quiet steadiness, a profound sense of systemic calm that the participant genuinely didn't expect to find. This calm isn't a single habit you can practice. It appears to be a systemic result, raising the question of how 5 mundane, low-intensity habits manage to manufacture it. The first 7 days are driven by what we can call the motivation illusion. Your brain is flooded with a biological high that makes new effort feel completely frictionless. You rack up early wins with ease. You wake up before your alarm. You choose to cook instead of ordering in. And you enthusiastically reach out to friends you haven't spoken to in months. But this early success creates a dangerous, smug confidence. Because week 1 feels easy, the brain assumes the rest of the month will require no actual willpower. This honeymoon phase is actually a mask. It hides the true behavioral test that arrives the moment the initial novelty dies. In week 2, the novelty vanishes. Real-world friction, like a late-night work deadline, collides with a motivation reserve that has finally run dry. Poor sleep makes tomorrow's movement impossible. Lack of movement breeds irritability, leading you to skip social connection entirely. This is the negotiation trap. Your brain offers rational excuses to stop the challenge, pointing to stress and lack of sleep as valid reasons to quit. This specific moment of rationalization on the couch is where the vast majority of self-improvement attempts quietly end. Systemic failure isn't a sign of weak character. It's a result of the cognitive trap that says if one link in the chain breaks, the entire system is permanently ruined. The solution to surviving the week 2 crash is surprisingly unglamorous. You have to abandon the requirement for a perfect streak and focus only on consistency. Picking a habit back up after a failure doesn't feel like a triumphant comeback. It feels annoying and anticlimactic. You just show up again, frustrated, and do the work anyway. Real habit formation happens here, not during the initial high, but in the uncomfortable moment you choose to return immediately after a stumble. Around week 3, a shift occurs. The behaviors stop being effortful decisions and start becoming automatic. You aren't waking up and choosing to walk, you're just doing it. The biological benefits finally surface. You wake up without the chronic grogginess of mild sleep deprivation, a state you'd been in for so long you'd forgotten it wasn't normal. Even the social connection habit changes. It stops being a box to check and becomes a genuine source of joy that you actually look forward to. Surviving the messy, imperfect repetition of week 2 is the necessary biological toll required to reach this stage of effortless automation. The final week is defined not by a new peak of energy, but by the absence of the old bad feeling. The background hum of tiredness and irritability has genuinely quieted. This synergistic loop connects all 5 habits. Protected sleep makes the morning walk easier. Movement improves mood, making connection effortless, which reduces the stress ruining your sleep. As this loop spins, habits reinforce each other, producing a steady, measurable calm. Internet challenges often promise flashy, immediate transformations. The reality of building a health system is quiet and gradual, focusing on a foundation you can actually keep living in. Lasting calm isn't about 30 flawless days. It's about mastering the unglamorous skill of returning to the system every time you inevitably stumble. Between counting every gram of protein, timing fasting windows, and swallowing handfuls of supplements, we treat living a long life like a high-stress math problem. But the people actually reaching their 100th birthdays are largely ignoring these protocols. To find the actual drivers of human longevity, researcher Dan Buettner teamed up with National Geographic. They spent 2 decades searching the globe for the highest concentrations of people living active, healthy lives well past a century. They mapped out 5 specific regions. We're looking at Okinawa in Japan, the mountains of Sardinia, Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula, Ikaria in Greece, and the city of Loma Linda in California. There is no obvious connection between these communities. They exist on different continents, speak different languages, follow different religions, and rely on different local agriculture. None of these groups were following a program, and they never spoke to each other. They simply lived their lives and arrived at the same biological outcome. Reaching 100 in these regions is the result of a consistent, universal human baseline, a way of living that produces health as a side effect rather than a goal. Let's look at what they're actually eating, starting in Okinawa. While white rice is the modern Japanese staple, these centenarians were raised on something else. Older generations here relied on the purple sweet potato for the bulk of their calories, supported by tofu and bitter melon. Pork was reserved for rare celebrations, used sparingly to flavor a dish rather than as a main serving. They also practice hara hachi bu, a Confucian reminder spoken before meals to stop eating the moment you feel about 80% full. In the rugged interior of Sardinia, the diet reflects a physically demanding shepherding culture. The staples here are barley-based flatbreads, garden vegetables, and cheese made from grass-fed sheep's milk. They also consume moderate amounts of a local red wine called Cannonau, which contains high levels of specific antioxidants. In Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula, the diet is built around traditional Mesoamerican agricultural roots. They rely on the nutritionally complete combination of corn, beans, and squash. Tortillas are made using a traditional lime treatment that increases nutrient availability, and the local water is naturally rich in calcium. Up to this point, these three populations share almost zero raw ingredients, which makes their identical lifespan outcomes even more striking. In Ikaria, Greece, the pattern continues, with foraged wild greens, heavy use of olive oil, and an unhurried daily pace where meals are social events. Finally, the Adventist community in Loma Linda, California, follows church guidance toward a vegetarian, nut-heavy diet that avoids alcohol entirely. Despite the geographic distance between these regions, overlapping the data reveals that the underlying nutritional math is the same. Plant-based whole foods make up between 90 and 95% of the daily calories consumed across every single zone. Whether it's black beans, lentils, or soybeans, a daily serving of legumes is the single most consistent dietary predictor of reaching 100. Meat remains an occasional side dish or celebration food, and the grains they consume are strictly whole and minimally processed. The fact that these 5 cultures independently arrived at the same habits identifies this pattern as a biological standard for human health. Adding a single superfood or a new supplement to a modern diet will not replicate these outcomes. Every zone also shares a hidden social rule. Meals are communal anchors. Eating with others slows the pace and reduces stress hormones during digestion. The social context of the meal is as biologically significant to their lifespan as the physical nutrients on the plate. Applying this research doesn't require moving to a remote island or attempting a strict, restrictive overhaul. The most effective change is to elevate beans to a daily anchor on your plate and shift meat to a minor, occasional side element. Swap refined grains for whole versions, and practice checking in partway through a meal to stop once you feel comfortably satisfied. A day modeled on this pattern looks like whole grain oats for breakfast, a heavy lentil and vegetable lunch, and a light early dinner. There is also a zero-cost intervention. Commit to eating at least one meal a day with another person, disconnected from screens. True longevity is achieved by building an environment where unglamorous, real food is the default choice, repeated for a lifetime.